everyone. Welcome back to the Reprogram Yourself Challenge. Today we are on day 22. I cannot believe that we are starting to wrap up this program. So far, we've been going over a lot of modalities. We've been talking a lot about NLP. And one thing you should be noticing by now is NLP really works to give you a different perspective on the way you view things. So that way you can start zooming out and seeing things differently. Because at the end of the day, just because you believe a belief doesn't mean that it's true. And when you actually start challenging those beliefs that you believe to be true, that's when you actually can turn a limiting belief into an empowering belief. And when you feel empowered, you're able to take different action. It's talked about all the time in the manifestation community, how your beliefs create your reality. But one thing that I find isn't talked about enough is how your beliefs actually dictate the actions you take. When we have a limiting belief, we actually have a fixed mindset. And that means that we're not allowing ourselves to grow. We're not allowing ourselves to change. We're not allowing ourselves to have different experiences because we're saying that based on past evidence or past experience, that this is what's going to be true in my future. But that isn't true. You don't know what's going to happen in your future. You can't predict that. Nobody can. So you can't decide what's going to happen in your future based on what has happened. And what you have to realize is a lot of the times the beliefs that you hold aren't because of your past experience. They have been programmed into you. So you're believing something to be true for you when you've never even experienced that to be true for you. Now remember that we talked about that your mind generalizes. So a lot of the times people hold these beliefs, but they aren't looking at the implications of having that belief. If I believe this thing to be true for me, then what does that mean for me? What does that mean in how I show up, in the actions that I take, in what I believe is available for me? And a lot of the times we just keep feeding these past beliefs, these old beliefs that actually aren't useful towards getting us to what we desire to experience and what we desire to have. One thing NLP does is it really helps you to start weeding out those beliefs that just genuinely aren't useful for you. Because if you have a belief, say with money, that says money is a limited resource, I'll never be rich, then what does that mean? You're probably not going to start a business. You're probably not going to make any risky investments. You're probably going to continuously work in a job that you don't really like, but you feel secure in because someone else is giving you a paycheck instead of realizing that you're your biggest return on investment. And the only way you're ever going to be financially free is really to make smart investments or to have a business for yourself. You have to change your relationship and your beliefs around money because your beliefs are dictating the relationship that you have to money. And this is where I see a big gap in the manifestation community. We'll talk all day long about beliefs, but not a lot of people even want to talk about action. And I would say, honestly, there's a lot of people that are in the camp where they argue when people tell them to take action. But the self-concept you have dictates the beliefs, the actions that you take. And if you don't take action in alignment with the self-concept that you desire to have, then you don't actually have that self-concept, right? So today I want to talk to you about something called belief change in NLP. And what it stems down to is this a useful belief? Is having this belief helping me to get to my desired reality, or is it actually keeping me stuck in a reality where I don't desire to experience? Because if our beliefs are creating our reality, and they are, then that means we cannot keep feeding, engaging, or believing in beliefs that are not useful. So by not useful, it means is believing this belief preventing me from experiencing the reality that I desire. If it's with money and you desire to be financially free, if you desire to be rich, if you desire to be wealthy, if you desire to be abundant, then you can't have limiting beliefs around money that tell you that money's a limited resource, money's hard to come by, money doesn't grow on trees, all of these things that were taught to you by somebody else. And oftentimes you started believing them before you even had any experience with money. I'm going to give you a quick example. I know that my stories are normally really long, but this one's really going to be a short story. I'm going to give you an example from my life when I think I was about 7 to 10 years old. What is time? But around that time frame. And I went out to dinner with my best friend's family, and they were very wealthy. They always had money to do things. And what's so ironic is everything I loved to do as a child, I did with them. And I was I was made to feel like I shouldn't be loving those things because they cost too much money. Like, I love to ski, but that cost too much money from my parents' point of view. I loved to go to this 2-week camp that I absolutely loved going to, and it was so much money. I was made to feel bad all of the times I did anything that I genuinely loved if it cost too much money. My parents were always giving me this energy, whether they were saying it or not, I felt it. So I will never forget, literally, I will never forget. We went out to dinner and then we were going to go see the movie Catch Me If You Can. So actually, however old I was when that movie came out, it doesn't really matter. That doesn't matter, but I was young. Okay, I was young. So I remember my parents gave me money to pay for dinner, and I had $20. I had a $20 bill. And I remember looking at the menu and picking out the cheapest thing that I could get. It wasn't even a meal because I was so worried to spend this whole $20. Like, oh my God. So I was like, okay, cool. And I picked something that I want to say was like around $10. Then when the check came, there was like 15 or 16 of us out. And I had never experienced this happen before. But my friend's parents said, okay, we're just going to divide the bill by 16. So however much the bill was, we divided it by 16. So the amount that I had to pay was the full $20. I remember, like, I can still take myself back to that memory and feeling like just so dysregulated. My gut was like, felt like I just got punched in the gut. Like, what do you mean I owe you $20? I literally ordered something that was the cheapest thing on the menu so that way I didn't have to give you the entire $20. Now, thinking back on that, that's absolutely crazy because my parents gave me that $20 to be able to spend on dinner and the movies. I mean, maybe they were paying for my movie ticket. I'm not really sure how that worked because I spent all of the money I had allocated for the dinner. And I just remember feeling cheated. I was like mad, but I didn't say anything. I was just so stunned and shocked and so like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. But in my heart of hearts, I knew that these were genuinely the nicest people that I had ever met. They were so happy. They were so generous. They were so kind. They were so caring. So I knew that they weren't doing it in a way to like actually hurt me, even though I felt in my body, felt this scarcity so much so that now over 20 years later, I can still feel that dysregulation in my body. That's how strong it was. Now, for me, I hadn't had that many experiences with money because I wasn't working yet. I was still living under my parents' roof. Like everything that I did, they were paying for. So where did this lack come from? This lack that lived so deeply in my body that I felt it. It came from my parents, right? This wasn't through experiences that I had. This was the first time me going out in like an adult situation where I'm on my own and I'm paying for dinner and they're splitting the bill in a way that I've never seen done before. Because you can tell my family didn't do that. They would pay for exactly what they owed. I always tell you guys that money is the most highly programmed thing, and it truly is. And this goes to show you that your beliefs around money, they were installed in you before you actually had any experiences with truly exchanging money. As a young child, you were programmed into lack. And I can say that confidently because I would say 99% of people are programmed into lack. Unless you came from a really, really wealthy family that programmed you into wealth consciousness, you are programmed into lack. So much so that you actually probably get defensive when people tell you that lack isn't normal and lack doesn't have to be your reality. You probably still get a little offended when people tell you how easy it can be to make money, when people tell you that they're millionaires, when people tell you that they're financially free. And now we're not in a private session, so I want you to just be accountable. Are you one of those people that when people tell you how easy it is to make money, you get defensive? Is that your first response? You get defensive because this program was so deeply installed in you that every fiber of your being, mind, body, and soul have always believed this. And then because you believe this, you experienced a reality where that was true for you. And you might be 30, 40, 50, 60 years old right now when you start seeing people tell you how easy it is to manifest money, and you look at all of your past evidence, because that's what your mind does. It distorts and generalizes, and it says, no, that's not true. I've always had to struggle with money. But is it ultimately true that you had to struggle with money? No, it's actually not. Is it true that you could actually have a really healthy and easy and safe and consistent relationship with money? Yeah, It absolutely is. That can absolutely be true. So the thing that we need to realize is just because you have a belief, it doesn't mean that it's true. And just because you believe a belief to be true, it doesn't mean that it's useful for you. What a lot of people will tell you to do in the manifestation community is just speak generalized positive affirmations. I am wealthy. I am wealthy. I am wealthy. But if you have an unconscious belief that dictates your behaviors, your actions, your habits, how you feel about money, then saying that isn't actually going to change that programming that's in your mind. And as we talked about earlier, you have to speak the language of your unconscious mind if you genuinely want to reprogram it effectively, faster, and without using so much energy. And your unconscious mind speaks in sensory. It speaks by the senses. It learns from sensory input. So your feelings, what you see, what you hear, this is how you actually start speaking to your unconscious mind, through images, through sounds, through feelings. This is why visualization can be so powerful, because you're actually communicating directly with your unconscious mind. This is also why affirmations are not the most powerful thing that you can use to reprogram your mind. That's you really reprogramming your conscious thoughts. It's not you actively going into the depths of your psyche and changing the installed program. Because here's the thing, right? If your belief is dictating your habits, your behaviors, your actions, the thoughts that you think, then if you just change the belief that's installed, all of that will change. The way that you install new beliefs into your unconscious mind is by speaking the language of your unconscious mind, by tapping into the imagery, by tapping into the sounds, by tapping into the feelings that are already installed in your brain as the belief. So instead of thinking about the words that you're saying from an affirmation lens, you're gonna start thinking about the belief from the picture that's installed, from the sounds that are installed, from the feelings that are installed. So that way we can actually communicate with the part of your unconscious mind that stores that belief. And by changing that image, by changing the sound, by changing the feelings, and when you do that, that's when you actually are working smarter and not harder to reprogram your mind by installing new beliefs. Now, in the belief change exercise that I'm going to walk you through today, this is actually very similar to what you will experience if you ever go into Dr. John Connolly's world in rapid resolution therapy, which we have talked about before. Something that he does very, very often, especially when he does group coaching exercises, when he's walking one person through, but there's a whole group of people, like on a Zoom call, for instance, is he really starts communicating with your unconscious mind. Now, the thing is I'm not going to tell you, he's not going to tell you the picture, the sound, the feeling. You have that installed in your unconscious mind, and everyone's mental map is different. So you're going to have a different image. You're going to have a different sound. You're going to have a different feeling that you have already associated with this belief. So the idea here is to walk you through the process of finding what that image is, finding what that sound is, finding what that feeling is, and then manipulating it. Essentially turn down that old limiting belief and really manipulating it to amplify the empowering belief that you would rather feel, see, or hear instead. And this is why Dr. John Connolly's work works so instantaneously, because he's not spending all of this time talking and you're talking back and complaining about your problems or telling him the affirmations like bah, 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 bah. When we want to change our unconscious belief systems, it's not about you talking in English. That's why affirmations are really just barely scratching the surface, and they're quite honestly very ineffective. Now, if you've changed your unconscious programming and then you start affirming on a conscious level, things that are in alignment with that belief that you have, that's when you're really hitting it from both angles. But the thing that you genuinely need to start with is installing the new belief. And after us being together for 22 days, I now trust that all of you that are here that are still showing up for this, a lot of you fell off, but this is what happens when you give something for free. And that's why the fact that I even decided at first to give 30 days for free was insane, because I would say probably 10% of you are still here with me. But the people that are here are the ones that are genuinely changing their lives. And now, since you're here with me and you've really heard the science behind how a lot of what they're telling you to do on TikTok especially is really just barely scratching the surface, because they're telling you to do something from a conscious lens and they're not understanding the science and the neuroscience behind how to actually make these transformations and how to actually install new beliefs. And a lot of people get triggered and get defensive by what I'm saying because they aren't able to listen with discernment, because they put Neville Goddard on such a pedestal that they're believing that everything he says has to be true, and God forbid you challenge that. But that means that they just have a fixed mindset and they're not willing to grow and learn. And they're saying that he's a guru and he's the only one that you can listen to. And that's never true. There's never one person that knows the ultimate way, because there's always a million and one ways. But there's also a way that you can do it way smarter. Okay, so instead of walking you through the steps of doing this and then actually facilitating the transformation with you, I'm actually just going to have you jump right into it, because we are communicating with your unconscious mind. This isn't something that I want you to consciously think about. That's actually going to deter the process. We want to be communicating directly with your unconscious mind. So I want you to nod and say that you agree to allow your subconscious mind to be reprogrammed. If you agree, I want you to think about a thought and a belief that you want to be true for you. It isn't yet true for you, but you desire it to be true for you. Now, I want you to think about a belief that's already true for you, and it's actually going to be a complete opposite belief than the one that you want to believe. It's going to be a universal truth like the grass is green. Something that you know is true without having to think about it at all. It's just matter-of-factly true for you. Now, I want you to think about a belief that is true, but it doesn't affect you. So whether you believe it or not, it doesn't affect your life at all. And this is a belief that you don't really care about. Okay, so now you're going to go through from the belief that you desire to be true for you, and the belief that is true for you, and a belief that you don't really care about it being true for you. And I want you to associate a picture, a sound, or a feeling with each of these beliefs. Allow your unconscious mind to do this. Don't think about this consciously. Don't force it. Whatever the first thing that comes up for you, that is your unconscious mind communicating with you that that's what is installed there. That's the picture. That is the feeling. That is the sound. So don't try to consciously force it. I want it to be whatever comes up for you. It probably isn't going to make sense, because remember, it's your unconscious mind. You speak English, which is your conscious mind, and your unconscious mind speaks Mandarin in Dr. John Connolly's metaphor. So allow your unconscious mind to speak through you, through an image, through a feeling, and through a sound. Now I want you to really see that image for each of them, or hear that sound, or feel that feeling. I really want you to tap into what that picture is, what that sound is, what that feeling is for all three of those. Now, I want you to think about the belief that you desire to be true for you, and I want you to associate that with the image, the sound, or the feeling that is associated with the thought that you don't care about. Okay, good. Now, I want you to think about the belief that you want to be true for you, and I want you to associate that with the image, the feeling, or the sound of the belief that you know to be true. Okay, amazing. Now, as you can see, that one was pretty rapid fire, because a lot of the times people are trying to consciously change things in their life, when the most effective way to transform your mindset is to allow your unconscious mind to lead. You don't need to understand it logically, because your unconscious doesn't have logical beliefs. It has sensory images, feelings, and sounds that have been installed in it. So now this is a process that you can walk yourself through whenever you want to change a belief. And this is how you're actually going to install new programmings in your mind, because you're now changing the associations. You're changing and manipulating the sounds and the pictures and the feelings that you already have installed in you to shift to what you desire to be true for you. This is why I never let you, if you're a client, a student, or somebody in my community, say that you don't know. You do know. Your unconscious mind always knows. It's literally one big supercomputer. It always knows. Your unconscious mind tells you that you don't know. And when you give yourself a lot of time, your conscious mind tries to complicate things, but it's already installed in your unconscious mind. So sometimes you need to just be quick and rapid fire with things because you've already spent enough time believing your shitty beliefs or complicating the fuck out of things or listening to all of the noise drama in your mind when in reality, it's already installed as a belief. When we want to change it, we just need to learn how to communicate with our unconscious mind. And that's what techniques like this do. Okay, so let me know how this one went for you. I'm so excited to hear. I love doing these ones with you guys because you get to actually feel and see the shift and see how your unconscious mind really communicates. And I will see you tomorrow for day 23.